Humanity, I love you all with all my heart, with all my might. The video feed got cut off, but that doesn't matter. So we're talking about the mind. So obviously we have been creating for thousands of years. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years. This is what we've been doing, designing, creating, producing. So having said that, you understand what I mean about the mind, because, you know, it's the connection between the eye, the heart, the brain, the sun, the sundial, opening the portal, building the bridge, and understanding that it starts there, right? The energy comes into the eyes through the iris and hits the brain, and the brain, so where our mind is in our brains, right? So all these visions, all these memories, it's all happening in there. So we need to deal with the negativity, right? So we can take action. So you know, normally here on Earth, we refer to the mind as two states for the most part: the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. By the way, you can refer to this visual on y.how/mind. That's y.how/mind. You go there and refer to it. It's on Substack, it's on YouTube. But let's talk about it. So remember that we're sundials. We build the bridge. Our heartbeat, our electromagnetic field of creation gets in sync with the electromagnetic field of creation of the sun. So that's building the bridge. And we open the portal by staring at the sun, so we can actually open our hearts and build the bridge. And our mind gets all this information, all this energy through our eyes, through our iris, and hits the back of our brain, and our brain gets supercharged, and then all these things happen. Today, this is very crucial, because today's video is about that. It's about the mind. So let's start with the unconscious mind. So what's the unconscious mind? Really, the unconscious mind, if you think about it, fundamentally speaking, really is just these traumatic events in the back of our mind. Really, it's just, if you really want to think about it in practical sense, from like a creation point of view, action point of view, forget about other things that we do subconsciously, like, you know, all the systems that regulate the human body that the mind does. I'm not talking about these things. I'm talking about like action, and where action comes from and where action goes, and all these different things, and what the power of action and free will. So unconscious mind, you know, it's traumatic events. Really, it's all these unaddressed, all repressed, all these suppressed events, emotions, negative emotions, you know, and emotions, memories, all these different things, they always have a negative load, a negative cognitive load. They're charged with negativity. You know, when you relive the memory, when you recall, then the memory, because it was negative, it's trauma, you relieve the emotion again. You have a feeling about it, and it's negative. And if it was an accident, you relieve the pain, you traumatize about it, and then it holds you back. You know, it's a fantasy, it's an illusion. It's not real, it just happened, but it's still there. It has a signature to it, an energy signature that you have to address, you have to deal with. Okay? So this is there. So, and it's normally a traumatic event. And it's like static. You see, it's like the shadow. I spoke about what the shadow is. It's very similar, because the shadow resides in the unconscious mind. It's where it lives. So this is the mind, and the shadow, particularly the unconscious mind, that's where the shadow kind of lives in there. So it's this static, this friction, this low energy, this inert, low vibration, destructive, that doesn't do anything. It's low self-love. All that is just there. You know, it's noise. It doesn't do anything positive. It has its defense mechanisms that essentially is like the fear that paralyzes you, that don't allow you inaction, doesn't allow you to take action, that controls you in a way. You see? So this is why it's important to stare at the sun, because the energy of the sun gives us the strength to face that emotion, to face that negative emotion, to face the trauma, to face the event that's holding us back. Right? And how do we face it? With love, with the energy of creation, because love transmutes energy, you know, it disintegrates it. If it's negative, it deloads it, it discharges it. So how do we do that? Well, the heart, when we build the bridge, then the energy, you know, of the heart creating, we love that emotion. The emotion comes up through, bring it up in the recalling in the memory, the illusion of the event comes back and the fantasy is relieved. And then when that comes, you have the heart connection with the sun and the energy. So now you can face it. You see, and forgive yourself. You accept the emotion. You are grateful for the event. You leave it. You understand that it's there to teach you a lesson, because we all have individual experiences in the end. So it makes us stronger. It allows us to grow. You see, it all starts with the trauma. So as we start to sync with the sundial, this sun iris nexus, the human practice, we start to stare at the sun and open our heart. We become one with the sun as a sundial. We're in sync with it. Our heartbeat is in sync with the electromagnetic field of creation of the sun and our own electromagnetic field of creation of the heart. And when that happens, our mind gets all this ability, this superpower to just face and it stacks all the emotions in order. So the order that matters the most for us. So it matches the level of energy that we can deal with. So if our heart's strong enough, is brave enough and courageous enough and loving enough, it would meet its counterpart in terms of energy. So we face it and we neutralize it and we deal with it. So for the negative emotion comes, the trauma comes, say a bad experience that took place 5 years ago and it has held us back for a long time. Then we have the strength with our heart and then we face it, and then that image and the memory comes on coming, the fantasy and illusion keeps on relieving itself until we are fully down with it and it doesn't have a hold over us anymore. That's how it works. And then, of course, if you think about it, this trauma, this negative emotion is distorted perception from an unconscious. It's distorted perception. It's a fantasy. It's an illusion. It's not reality. It's not real perception. It's not what we actually. It's a memory. It's there. It's bothering us. It's this static, this noise, this friction in the back of our heads, this destructive energy, inertia, this inert, it's like this thing, this in the back of our heads, this shadow that we need to address because it's not good. It's not allowing us to take action. It's inaction. It's negative. It's low self-love. That's what the shadow is. So then, of course, it's distorted. So we need to come to terms with it and understand that this is distorting our reality. The unconscious mind truly is there, so we can reconcile it. We can make sense of it through, facing our emotions and our trauma, and we can integrate it. And then we can move on and have a full, beautiful life ahead of us, which is what we are, purposeful eternal creators. We're sundials, we're your compass. This is who we are. And obviously this distorted perception, it manifests in the way of self-imposed limits. It limits us because, you see, we have energy levels every day. And if we have all this static, all this friction, all this noise in the background of our mind, in the way of a shadow in the unconscious mind, what does that do? Well, it's holding us back because we're not in full control of all of our energy. We are not being efficient with our energy levels because it's all this energy, all this thing that's there in the way of fear, in the way of fear-based energy, low vibration, see, destructive energy. It's all these things there that are holding us back. Inaction is holding us back. So we see that in the way it manifests in day-to-day life is through self-imposed limits. So we start to come up with excuses and reasons, and we just don't understand, but we just don't do things. We're demotivated and we just have attitudes and things. It's because of this trauma, these events that are holding us back, this negativity, self-imposed limits. Because we're limitless. It's our nature to be limitless. But because of this negative cognitive load, we are holding ourselves back. We're being restrained. So we need to address it. That's why we build the connection. We build the bridge. We open the portal. And then the heart gets stronger. We deal with the emotions, with the events. And then eventually there is no cognitive load there anymore. Because remember, self-imposed limits leads to what? It leads to inaction, not taking action. Which is the opposite of what we are, you see? That's when you have a lot of people out there saying there is not such a thing as free will. Because they're driven by fear. They're driven by inaction. They just give their power away. They're not purposeful. You see? They're controlled by their shadows. They're controlled by their unconscious mind. They don't understand who we are. But they also have the ability to use these mechanisms that I'm referring to essentially awaken and understand who we are as spherical light beings. We're infinite energy. We have metamorphosized into a self-aware, fully transformed light species, which is benevolent, and we create with love. This is who we are, is our nature. We open our hearts, stare at the sun, we build the bridge, open the portal, and everything starts to happen because we create with a love. So obviously, this is the unconscious side of things, right? And how do we deal with it? Well, we deal with the emotions. We heal, we face them, we're grateful about it, we accept them, we let them go, and then we move on. And then the energy goes away, and then that process happens. It's a process. It could take months, it could take years, it could take days, depending on the memory, but the more you stare at the sun, the more you connect, and the more you are in sync as a sundial with the creator, the faster the process is, because you have more energy and more power every day to deal with the emotions and have the strength in your heart to face it and be strong, brave, and courageous. Because remember, once you clear all these things, then guess what? You have all this energy available to do what you're supposed to, which is because the reason why the mind starts by throwing at you all this negativity so you deal with these memories is so you can actually free yourself. You free yourself from all of it so you can have the energy to do what the brain is supposed to do, which is to guide us in our creation process, imagination, creativity, generation, you see? This is the actual real purpose of the brain, to guide our creation, to give us the tools so we can create and take action. So if you think about it fundamentally, it throws at you the bad things first. Like, you deal with this stuff first before we move on into creating, because this stuff is slowing us down. We cannot create. We cannot get to our true destination. We cannot get to our end state, our result, our dream, unless you address these fears, you address this pain, this suffering, these problems, this shadow, this unconscious mind, this repressed emotion, this suppressed feeling, all these unaddressed issues, these unresolved problems. Because we need the energy levels, and we don't have them right now because of the static, because of the friction, because of all this noise. We gotta get rid of it. This destructive energy is taking too much energy. You gotta deal with the shadow. You have to. We need to take action. Deal with it. You have a heart. You have the fear. Face it. Heal it. Face it. Love it. Accept it. Be grateful. Move on. And then it goes like that, and then you start to, like, as the stack starts to clear, and then you go you like dishes, you have a pile of dishes and you start washing them and you clean them and stuff, then it's less dishes, so it's clean, right? So it's the same. So like, you deal with a pile, you deal with a stack, and then eventually you start to have more energy, enough energy for the